Hello and welcome to the SCI Guys, the show where we talk about the crazy, weird and wonderful stories from the science world. I'm Corey, and as always I'm joined by my co-host Jamp and Luke Cutford.
Welcome back.
Howdy, welcome back.
This week we're talking about baby blockers and sperm stoppers. But first, we've got a little Spotify update.
Ooh.
How many followers do you think we have on Spotify now?
I forgot what we had last. Was it 33,000 last time?
About 30. Yeah, it was about in the low 30,000s, yeah.
Okay. I reckon we are about not quite at 35 yet.
34 and a half.
Oh, very close. 34,674.
So close.
Bloody incredible. Bloody incredible. Very well done. We've also got close to 1 million people that have started listening to the podcast.
That's insane.
There
I
you
say
go.
1 million people. Almost 1 million starts and almost 750,000 streams. So that's like people fully listening through and being like, yeah, I like
Wow.
that. Mad, isn't
So
it?
cool.
55,000 listeners, which means that there are some of you that are listening that aren't yet following us.
How dare
What are you doing? Why are you doing that? We're about the top 50 science podcasts in the UK. You should definitely be following us.
Why aren't you following us?
But also, we've asked that question. Now it's time for another question, or another few questions. If you're male, would you take birth control? If you're not male, have you ever had side effects from taking birth control? And if none of these apply, or you don't want to answer, what's your favorite flavor of ice cream? Get to YouTube and answer that question in the comments, especially if you're listening on Spotify or Apple or anywhere else. Start using your eyes and your fingers, get to YouTube and answer the question in the comments. What do you think we're talking about today?
Sperm blocking medication.
Is it male birth control?
It's male birth control. Very well done. Very good job. Very attentive. Very well done.
I've got an eye for it. I'm quite astute.
So, let's talk a little bit about current male contraception. What are the current options for males in contraception?
Vasectomy?
Vasectomy, yeah?
Not having sex?
Oh, abstinence, yes. It's
No.
a popular one.
No, I'm going to say no. No.
Just saying
I
it's
should
an
teach
option.
more of it.
I disagree.
Okay. You think you feel compelled. It is not possible for you to not have sex.
I think that I will not entertain abstinence.
I will not
as a
entertain
contraceptive.
abstinence.
I will not entertain abstinence as a contraceptive option.
I will
That's like saying-
shag. No matter
saying,
what
okay.
anybody says.
What can we do? What can we do to make driving cars safer?
Not drive.
Not. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
That's not an answer to the question.
Well, it works, doesn't it?
No,
If
it
the
doesn't.
goal is less deaths with cars, it would work.
The goal is to have sex and not have a baby or get an STD.
Okay, well then,
Puncture all the tyres. So
not
no one can
having
start
sex
driving.
will not do that.
No, not having sex will not do that.
No.
Yes. Yeah, I feel like almost inherent in the conversation of contraception is that the person wants to have sex. I mean, I'm sure that almost everyone thinking about contraception is aware that they could avoid all of this simply by
But
not having
should
sex.
they want to have sex is the question we
Yeah.
should be asking.
I do want to be clear, abstinence-based sex education is very ineffective.
Yes.
Well, abstinence-based sex education means as much as it's basically saying
Don't have it.
no education.
Yes.
Yeah.
The abstinence-based sex education is
Yes.
Less than useless.
It's like when
it's an is it an oxymoron or is it paradoxical? Or which one?
it's like when
It's
Professor
paradoxical.
Umbridge comes to teach defense against the dark arts and they don't do any defense against the dark arts.
Yeah, the greatest defense against the dark arts is being a good boy. Be a good little
Reading
boy.
your books.
Be a good little boy and read all your little books and do your little exams, and you will never, ever, ever face the dark arts. Except for all of you who have already faced the dark arts, in which case, no, you haven't. Be quiet.
When the bad man comes, just sit down and read
Just
a
say
book.
no.
Just say no.
Just say no.
I have a book to read.
I'm sorry, I'm abstinent to being attacked.
I'm sorry, Voldemort. I do not engage in I do not engage with the dark arts, so you can leave me out of your silly little.
I don't
Respect
believe
my
in
choices.
violence.
Yeah, no, like, trying to
exist.
teach kids that not having sex is the safest way to have sex is really dumb, because you can't stop teenagers from having sex. They're gonna do it.
They're going to do it
They're
anyway.
gonna do it, man. I've met teenagers. I was a teenager. I know what we're like.
And you
all
did
right?
it.
I did it.
Yeah.
I did do it.
Okay, so other forms of contraception. Spermicidal lubricant.
Not really male contraception there, really, is it? When we're talking about male contraception,
okay.
that's focused on just what males use for themselves. Males aren't going to use spermicidal lube.
Pulling
on
out.
themselves. Oh, glad you mentioned that. I'm glad you mentioned that. Jamp, why don't you tell us why the pull-out method doesn't work?
I've got 20 children now.
I'm testament to its ineffectiveness.
So the pull-out method does not
Yes,
work
because
because
you do little bits of cummies all the time. That's why.
So the NHS says, Luke says you do little bits of cummies all the time. The NHS says something slightly different.
Not
The
quite
withdrawal
those
method of
words.
taking your penis out of your partner's vagina before ejaculating is not a method of contraception. This is because sperm can be released before ejaculation and cause pregnancy.
I got one. Not having heterosexual sex.
No, because you could have gay sex with a non-binary person.
Not having heterosexual cisgendered sex.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'll give
I
you
think,
that one.
I think I got you.
I
I guess that's another form of abstinence, really, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's abstinence. I was gonna say it's abstinence. But no, that's not getting to what I was gonna say it was about. So yeah,
Stick
you've
to
kind
the
of hit
butt.
on all of them, apart from the really obvious one, which is condoms.
I think
I
did
forgot
I not
about-
say condoms.
Did you say condoms at the top?
I don't know.
I don't think he did.
I don't think anyone
I
said
don't think
it.
anyone
Put a
said
little
it.
helmet on your fella.
Sure.
Yeah.
But
Is there a male pill?
no?
That's what
we're
we're
talking
talking
about
about.
today. So
Oh!
there are. We're not going to do the whole episode on condoms and vasectomies.
Well,
Gosh,
we
no.
The
don't
science
know.
of condoms.
Yeah.
It's a big sock.
I don't know.
So yeah, the two main contraceptive methods available to men are condoms, which are just a physical barrier that stops sperms from reaching and fertilizing an egg, and also it can stop you from getting STDs or STIs, rather, is what we're calling them nowadays. And there's also a vasectomy that is generally reversible. It's a semi-permanent sort of surgery that will stop you from sort of being able to not produce sperm, but stop you from being able to get sperm out and into your partner. So that's good in that sense, right?
Yeah.
Stops you from sperming in your partner, stops you from making a baby. All good. Vasectomies won't protect you from STIs though, because they won't. It's just there's no physical barrier there to stop you, and pretty much all other forms of contraceptive that aren't physical barriers like condoms will not stop you from getting an STI, because that's just it. There's no way for them. There's no way for anything else to stop you from getting an STI without being a physical barrier, really.
So condoms are winning at the moment.
Well, you say condoms are winning. My next segment is called condom failure rate.
Oh.
So I got this from a paper discussing HIV, but I'll assume that condom failure could also result in pregnancy, although obviously at a different rate to HIV transmission. Although this is just talking about failure rather than infection, so it's kind of ambiguous as to what it actually means. I'm assuming that it means the condom fails rather than the person is infected with HIV, because those are two different things. So a quote from this paper, the use of condoms clarifying the message. In general, the failure rate for perfect use, i.e. condom used correctly at every act of intercourse, is approximately 3%, and for typical use, condoms not used for every act of intercourse, the failure rate is 12%. A large number of studies on condom breakage report rates that vary from less than 1% to more than 10%, although many people mistakenly assume that all men know how to correctly use condoms. Incorrect use is common and is a major cause of condom failure. I'll do a little bit more of this quote, but can either of you tell me how to correctly put on a condom?
Don't double bag it.
Yes.
So-
for the love of God, do not put on two.
Don't put on two.
The friction will cause them to rupture. Bad idea. Just use the one. Anything else?
One is fine.
So you put it on like a little hat.
Yeah.
It looks like a little sombrero, so
Yeah.
the extra material's on the outside, not the inside.
Yeah.
And then you just roll him down.
Incorrect.
What?
Yep, incorrect.
Oh no, I've got loads
Really?
of children now.
God.
We can start a little club. You've got 20 kids. I've got
20, yeah,
a few.
We can have a full class of children between us.
We'll start a school. We'll teach them how
SCI
to
Guys
edit
school.
videos and
Yes!
make science podcasts.
As long as you're not teaching them how to put on condoms, because clearly
No,
you
we'll
do.
get someone in
when
for
they
that.
get older.
We'll get you in, you know.
So I'll read out the rest of this quote. A survey on condom use showed that 42% of the men surveyed did not use a condom from the start and or completion of penetrative sex. 23% did not leave space at the receptacle tip, and 81% did not use a water-based lubricant. So what you
I
missed out,
remember
Luke,
what I got
is
wrong.
you need to pinch the top.
You have to get a little bit of air at the top. Or a little bit of, not air, but like spare material.
Spare material. You don't want air. You
No.
want space. Because essentially what's going to happen is the rest of the condom is holding you, and when you ejaculate, you want space for the ejaculate to come out. And if you don't leave space for that, there's a chance that it could pop.
Yeah.
And also, I just
Spill
want
out
to,
the top.
I want to hop onto this because we're making lots of jokes, we're being very silly, but there's also very serious things to talk about. Here's a
Yes.
little serious note, little serious moment. If you are telling someone that they can fit into any size of condom because you can fit a condom over your arm or over your head, stop. Some condoms are too small for some people. And that doesn't mean that all condoms are too small for some people, but some people are genuinely too big for some condoms. So the solution to that is to get them bigger condoms or tell them to get bigger condoms rather than telling them wear this one that's too small. Because wearing one that's too small can be harmful to your penis.
Can wearing one that's too big be bad? Other than for obvious
probably not very
reasons, like it
Slip
falls off.
Yeah. No, I mean that would be the issue.
Right,
There.
yeah.
Yeah. So too big falls off, too small, bad for your penis, and maybe less effective, I think. So, just find the right fit, really. But also, if someone is trying to use an excuse by saying, I'm too big, so I can't use... No, there will be one
Shut
that
up.
fits.
There's one that fits them.
Well, you
There
can
will be
go
ones that
without,
fit.
mate.
Exactly. Exactly. But yeah, no, I'm sure you've seen those videos of people putting condoms on their arms and heads and stuff.
Oh, yeah, I did one of those.
Yeah, but that would hurt.
You did as well.
Like, it's not like it's...
Oh, it didn't hurt.
Yeah.
I couldn't breathe, but I didn't hurt.
Yeah, but on a more sensitive part of the body.
Oh, right. Sorry, I thought I was stretching it over my entire head. Yeah.
Yeah, your skull is going to be doing the bulk of the work there.
Yeah.
Ain't no skull in the penis. That head is
Empty.
full of blood.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Well, lots of people's heads are empty. Moving on. Shall we talk about the problems with female contraception? The three of us, very obviously,
We all
obviously,
know.
like very up to date
Very
with.
experienced.
Yeah,
Yes.
very experienced. with
I
it.
actually did some research about this recently, so I actually do know some of it. So that's good.
Oh wow, good for you. I did some
Well,
research
because
about
I
it
did a
recently
story
also.
about this as well.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Well, why
So-
don't you tell us some of the side effects from female contraception?
Depression,
Yeah.
Oh dear.
messed up periods,
Yeah.
infertility.
Oh
Yeah.
dear.
I mean, that's kind of the thing that they want, But
well,
Well, it kinda works.
permanent infertility,
which is less the thing that you want.
hormonal imbalance.
Ugh. Yeah, you've got to take
And it not working after all that.
yeah, so you've got to take it every single day if you're taking the pill. You can also get other methods like the implant or IUDs. Those are difficult to take out, though, if you change your mind. So you got to be sure that you want to be basically infertile for that length of time, or you want to not have, you don't want to not get pregnant for that length of time. There are other negative side effects. Spotting or bleeding between periods. That's kind of mentioned that. Sore breasts, nausea, headaches. Those could usually go away within 2 to 3 months. This is from Planned Parenthood, by the way. Usually go away after 2 or 3 months, and they don't necessarily happen to everyone that takes the pill. They shouldn't make you feel sick or uncomfortable, but obviously it can, and if it does, you should come off of it. There are lots of different types of birth control. You've got, like I think estrogen pills, progesterone, all these different things. They can do lots of different things to lots of different people. A lot of people I know have gained a lot of weight. They just gain a ton of weight, and then it's really hard to get the weight off. And obviously, you can love your body. That's whatever. It's not a bad thing to gain weight necessarily, but you need to be aware of the changes it's going to make to your body, because they do a lot. They basically mess with your hormones, and that is a tough game to play, because your hormones do a lot in your body. is essentially the issue there. There are also some issues with safety, but they're very rare and usually fine. Also blood clots and all that. So many issues with the pill. So many issues with the pill. Generally, if you're informed, you can make that choice. It's fine to take. I'm not saying you shouldn't take the pill, but there are a lot of side effects. Is essentially my point. Yeah.
Okay.
We happy with that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Very happy.
We're on
Wow.
the same page.
Wow. Can't believe you're happy with people having to have those awful side effects. Disgusting.
I'm happy with the reputable information.
Yeah.
Jam hates
I
women.
thought so.
I
We
don't
knew
hate
it.
women.
Okay. Jamp actually hates females, and Luke, I guess you hate trans people.
I'm very unhappy for females and the current state of contraception they have.
Good. I'm glad you clawed that back. Luke, still in the doghouse.
Who do you hate?
Everyone else. Ding-a-ling-ling, is that the ad bell?
It sure is.
It is.
What are we advertising today? Well, I'll tell you what it is.
Please.
It's After Dark. I
Wow.
say brand new. It's our super secret, very special, exclusive show. Just because SCI GUYS has ended, it doesn't mean the conversation has. Why don't you let them know what After Dark is, guys?
It's basically an opportunity for us to talk on a wider range of topics. You might see in SCI GUYS occasionally we go on little tangents. Well, After Dark is one gigantic tangent where we talk about a subject and then the conversation kind of meanders, but then we try to create a holistic lesson or message at the end of the show.
Yeah, we were finding these tangents were happening anyway throughout the show. Some of them were a bit too long for a single episode, so we thought, why not? Why don't we make a whole new podcast where we do just that?
So if your favorite part of SCI GUYS is the tangents, then absolutely you need to check out our Patreon at patreon.com/SCI GUYS, the only place you can access After Dark. And as I said, just because SCI GUYS has ended, it doesn't mean the conversation has.
But it's a super secret show, so don't tell anybody. Shh.
No, tell everybody.
But don't tell
We
anybody.
want everyone
Shh.
to know.
No, don't do that. No, don't
It's
do
super
that.
secret, but we want everyone to know.
Tell everyone. Tell everyone about this. Okay, so let's just start the show. So in 2003, there was a human trial done on 55 heterosexual, cisgender, I'm assuming, couples in Australia. This was a hormonal male contraceptive. So the procedure was fully reversible, and apparently there were no side effects. And each couple participated in the study for a year, and some went on to conceive afterwards, although normal fertility did return for everyone involved. That's very good.
It's very good.
And the treatment was a combination of two different compounds. One, progestin, which is a synthetic progesterone, which is a compound used in female contraceptives. You might have heard of it before. So that is medroxyprogesterone acetate. Yeah, so it contains progestin.
That's the name I'm familiar with.
Yeah, and it also, on top of having the progestin, it's got a testosterone implant, which is renewed every 4 months.
Ooh.
So progestin essentially suppresses sperm production via the pituitary gland, which is a part of your brain that produces stuff, essentially, and it reduces. We could go into the pituitary gland, but it's just so tedious. There's no point. All I remember of the pituitary gland, if you want to be, if we're going to dig into my past, my history here, do you remember the book series Artemis Fowl?
Yeah.
I never read it, but I do know it.
In Artemis Fowl, there is a fairy, and fairies are like little, like child-sized people, and they're magic. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, a bad fairy, she takes a pituitary gland from someone and has it implanted into herself so that she can grow big, grow like a normal person. But in doing so, I think she loses her magic, and she's basically a child now. Except she's got the mind of, I don't know, let's say 100-year-old person, but she's stuck in the body of a child, and she's going to grow and then die and age, like whatever. Anyway, so that's how I know what a pituitary gland is, and it's been stuck in my head ever since. So whenever I come across the pituitary gland, I remember that part of Artemis Fowl. I get annoyed that I've remembered that part of Artemis Fowl just from reading pituitary gland, and I stop. Which is why we're not talking about the pituitary.
So it does the growth hormones.
Yeah, it does them hormones. Yeah. I mean, according to Owen Colfer. So
yes.
Who knows? Who knows if he did his research?
Owen Colfer knows.
So the pituitary gland produces, among other things, luteinizing hormone, LH, and follicle-stimulating hormone, FSH, both of which are important for making sperm. And progestin suppresses basically suppresses the production of both of these. It reduces it enough to reduce sperm production. Now, here is a quote from Arnoud van der Spoel. Was not prepared for that name. But LH also has another effect, he says. It stimulates testosterone production in the Leydig cells in the testes, which is where spermatogenesis takes place, or spermatogenesis takes place. And testosterone is necessary for libido and secondary sexual characteristics such as muscle bulk. That's very true. Testosterone. This man knows his stuff. Wow, a scientist studying this knows what he's talking about. Insane.
No way.
So obviously testosterone is quite important in males for a number of different things. Like as he said, sort of muscle bulk. Can you think of anything else that testosterone is used for in the male body?
I imagine it has something to do with sex drive.
Yeah, it does have something. Yeah. So the libido, it's important in that. Bone mass, fat distribution, muscle mass, strength, production of red blood cells, and also sperm, obviously. It's involved in a lot of those different things. So Arnoud van der Spoel was involved in developing a male contraceptive pill at Oxford University's Glycobiology Institute. So this is why there was the testosterone implant, obviously, because the pill killed testosterone production quite a bit. Not necessarily completely, as far as I'm aware, but it had a massive effect to the point where you start needing to supplement testosterone just to kind of get back to where you would normally be.
I imagine that's a large, like, even just knowing that, although you do get it supplemented as well, I imagine that's a large off-put for quite a lot of men.
I mean, not as far as I'm aware, but then obviously this was being spoken about. This is from 2001, I think, remember, or 2003.
Yeah.
So early 2000s. So a lot of this they were talking about, look at this cool new thing that we've just done. This is very awesome. They were mostly talking about the positives. They weren't really talking about the negatives. Right. I would imagine, that a lot of blokes would probably be like, oh man, that's going to get in the way of my testosterone. No, I'm not going to do that. Bro. Yeah. I mean, it is basically, in this case, what essentially they have done is given people the female contraceptive pill and then also some testosterone. That's what they do for trans guys as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because you can't give them estrogen.
Yeah.
Because that'll That's not very
It's
good.
the opposite of what they want.
That's exactly the opposite of what they want. You're right. So you give them that, and then they're already taking testosterone, ideally.
Yeah.
So it should work out all right. Although in some cases, I mean, there's, as I said, this is hormonal stuff. So there's so many side effects because your hormones control so many things, and it's just like weight gain is a massive one, water retention, bone mass, all of that different. It can affect all of these different things. Obviously, it's a bit more complex than just taking the pill that you usually give to females and chucking it in some males with some extra supplements on the way. But, you know, like, we're going to reduce the complexity. That's essentially what's going on here. And as I said, that's why they had the T implant. A similar study in 2001 used testosterone injections. Now, T can't be taken in pill form, so that is a real problem in terms of getting people to just have the pill and stay on it. You've got to either go for injections or inject yourself with testosterone, which is not very fun. No, testosterone is thick, gloopy stuff, which it hurts to get injected. And I mean, you could have a doctor do it. You could have yourself do it at home. There are different ways that you could do it. I mean, I would assume you could probably just take. You could probably just take gel as well, but then that is essentially you have to do that every day. You would probably have to do that every day, and you need to remember to do it every day, otherwise you would have like low testosterone, which is not ideal. And there's so many other little issues. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not quite as simple as just popping a pill once a day and being done with it. You've also then got to go for either your injections once a month, or go for your injections every now and then, give yourself injections, or have to put this gel on you every single day, which means you can't then have someone touch you on that area for a while, and you can't shower directly afterward. You really have to sort of work your life around these things. Although we'll get to that in a second in terms of the female contraceptive pill and how many effects that tends to have. So apparently, going on this sort of contraception in this trial increased sex drive in some participants. I would say, just off the top of my head, probably just gave them more testosterone than they were used to.
Yeah, maybe.
I reckon the implant was just giving them slightly higher T levels than their body naturally sits at. That's why I'd assume having your testosterone removed and then just supplemented would result in a higher sex drive. It's probably that. So, moving on from the hormonal male contraceptives, there were also non-hormonal male contraceptives for obvious reasons. You don't want to be messing with people's hormones unless they're women, usually, in which case that's fine, go ahead and do it. So they were looking for non-hormonal male contraception. Hey, this is not what I think. This is not what I think.
I know, it just sounds like it is.
Really is not what I think. It's terrible. I think it's bad. I'm just pointing out that that's the way things are. Okay?
Yeah.
Talking descriptively.
Descriptively, absolutely. Oh yeah, no, sure. I absolutely want women to have a worse time than men. Yeah, no, absolutely not. It's just that's the society that we live in.
You're literally just constructing SCI Guys out of context.
Yes,
like, you've just got them written into your script, haven't you?
But seriously though, I think it's honestly, like, I've got a whole section at the end of this episode just to talk about that, because I mean, look, people will probably be sitting in the comments already complaining about how they're meninists. And we're clearly feminazis who are turning this male contraceptive pill episode into an episode about women.
Oh.
Well, here's the thing.
Can't men have anything?
No, we can't. No. So, no, here is why I'm taking a lot of this episode to talk about this episode about men, and generally actually about males, and using it to talk about women or females generally. Is because you can't really separate male contraceptive pills from the history of the female contraceptive pill, which we did in episode, which one? With Bliss.
That was 80-something.
So let's say about just under 100 episodes ago or so, right? Maybe about 80 episodes ago.
Episode 75, I'm sorry.
Whoa,
episode 75, that's even longer ago.
Yeah.
So we did that a while ago. And if you look at that story, the female contraceptive pill has a disgusting, awful history that was kind of steeped in sort of eugenics, racism, misogyny, all of these things. And the contraceptive pill today still has a ton of side effects. Depression, blah, 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 all of those things. And yet, still use it. And so many of the roadblocks for male contraceptive pills are, one, can we trust men to take the pill if it's difficult?
Unlikely.
Yeah, unlikely. And two, should we really be giving this to men if it gives them so many nasty, awful side effects, like making them feel sad and changing their body weight?
Why won't anyone think of the men?
Think of the men for 5 minutes. Let's just let the women continue to take the pill and have all of those side effects, because we can't have men having those side effects. It's too much.
I feel like if there is a pill, because I did some research on this before, and I feel like there were studies where like the previous male contraceptives, as I'm sure we'll get onto, were effective, and then there were just like these side effects of depression that are common in female contraceptive pills as well. Often female contraceptive people who use female contraceptive pills come off them because of the depressive side effects, right? And those should have just hit the male ones. If that's what they do, they should have just hit the market, and then the men can make the decision, or the males can make the decision on whether they take them or not. We can be informed on the information that it might cause depression, but like, because there's plenty of medication out there that might cause depression as one of its side effects, and it's still out there, and we just use it and suck it up. If you want to take that risk for the medication, then you do. It's like about weighing the risk, not about there being no risk at all.
Yeah, but I think it's interesting though, because it's not necessarily a female issue. I mean, it affects people that are female, right? That is. I feel like it's more of a women's issue, though. Do you know what I mean? In that it's not because society hates females with a burning passion. It's women and female are just conflated. And so generally, whenever these studies are done on women compared to when they're done on men, people take the men way more seriously.
Yeah.
And the men's well-being way more seriously than they take the women's.
Yeah.
And it just results in such lopsided things like this, wherein you have so much sort of female healthcare being disregarded because it primarily affects women. And then all of this sort of generally male healthcare, which is generally, men, is taken very seriously. Like the number of sort of what is it, PMS, or all of these different sort of polycystic ovary syndrome, all of these different sort of syndromes and symptoms and all of these things that generally just affect females are disregarded or are not taken seriously. It's ridiculous, and you could trace it all the way back to even hysteria, right? It's bloody ridiculous, and it goes as far as sort of even gender criticals pulling on this sort of stuff, TERFs pulling on this sort of stuff. So when they talk about their lost lesbian sisters, or what's the word? Something damage, irreversible damage. Is that the name of the book?
Yes.
You got stuff like that. The picture on the front of that is a little girl, and they're talking about all these girls, right? And how they're being tricked into becoming boys. There's this hysteria almost, and they're drawing on this same thing, saying, "Yeah, teenage girls just get drawn up in stuff, and it's because they're so easily drawn into all of these fads that now they're becoming boys." And it just comes from this place of sexism. So much of it, all of it, is just misogyny, and it's so weird the way that that sort of TERFs and gender criticals. Basically, the way that they hate on or harass or attack trans men so often comes from this weirdly misogynistic place. Do you know what I mean? Which is really, really odd. And then they also use misogyny against trans women. And it's weird that these people that prop themselves up as feminists and say, I'm doing this as a women's issue because I care about women's sexual rights, blah, blah, blah. And then they shut up when it comes to Roe v. Wade a few months back. Right, when it leaked that the Supreme Court was thinking about overturning it.
Yeah.
Did you hear your gender criticals, your big gender criticals talking about that?
J.K. Rowling, radio silence for ages.
Yeah.
I think
she was talking about it quite a lot. I thought she was talking about it.
She eventually
spoke about it.
I think it took her a couple of weeks.
Two of us got tweets in before that. I remember that.
Yes, we both got tweets.
We
You
both
beat
got our
J.K.
tweets in.
Rowling to it. Well done, guys.
Yeah.
No, I remember because I tweeted something along the lines of J.K. Rowling sitting in her mansion trying to figure out how this is trans people's fault.
Yes.
And
I saw you.
Yes, that was good.
And since then, I have had so many people come at me and say either it is trans people's fault or
How are they making that claim?
because trans people what was it? Oh, that was it. So trans people essentially made Republicans mad by asking for too much, and the backlash then resulted in that. So by trans people existing and asking for too much, which, to be fair, trans people have asked for a lot. Respect, basic human rights.
Come on now.
Access to healthcare. Maybe stop harassing us, please, is what they're saying. That's
Be nice to me.
those 4 things. Be nice. Too much.
Entitlement.
Too many things.
Don't be unkind to me.
Whoa.
Oof.
That is really, that's pushing the
You don't even
envelope
have
there.
to be nice. Just don't be unkind.
Leave me
Wow.
alone sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
No, so so in that sense, they're absolutely right. Trans people ask for too much, and then blah blah. That's what they're saying. Trans people ask for too much, and that
That
resulted.
completely ignores the fact that there's loads of people who don't like abortion, and those people vote for people who don't like abortion.
Yeah, but it's easier to be mean to trans people if you could make it their fault.
That is easier.
Yeah. And to be fair, J.K. Rowling, the way that she spoke about this was she was very heavy on attacking and harassing trans people around this whole thing, which
Really?
seems.
Has she made a link? I mean, I don't pay attention to anything.
No, not necessarily in regards to it, but around
Right.
the time period, she was still on her
But that's just what she
anti-trans
does,
stuff.
isn't it? That's just
Yeah, but
just her thing.
you'd think that the biggest thing in women's reproductive rights, female reproductive rights, would sort of stir her to speak mostly on that and drop the whole anti-trans thing for maybe a week. Nah. It's very clear that her and her ilk, their whole thing is just hating trans people, right? So to bring it back, I guess, to male contraception. Man, we've gone on quite a journey, haven't we? Let's bring it back to male contraception for a second. So I was talking about hormonal male contraception, and now I'm going to bring it to non-hormonal male contraception.
Okay.
Because there are some problems with hormonal stuff, which we've already gone over. It's all of the weight gain and the depression, all of that stuff that is generally fine for most women to deal with. But when you start doing it to the boys, to all the males,
unacceptable.
No.
Why are you doing that?
not for me, thank
How
you.
dare you even think it?
So here is a quote from, I cannot pronounce his name, I'm very sorry. It's MD Abdullah Al Noman.
No man.
No man.
No man.
No man.
No man. No man, I don't know.
No, man.
Scientists have been trying for decades to develop an effective male oral contraceptive, but there's still no approved pills on the market. Most compounds currently undergoing clinical trials target the male sex hormone testosterone, which could lead to side effects such as weight gain, depression, increased low-density lipoprotein, known as LDL, cholesterol levels. We wanted to develop a non-hormonal male contraceptive to avoid these side effects, says Noman, who is a graduate student in the lab of Gunda George, a PhD at the University of Minnesota. So this non-hormonal treatment that they've done recently, so this was this year that this stuff was coming out, 2022, I think back in March, I believe, when they started publishing all of this. So this non-hormonal treatment was tested on mice with human trials starting later in 2022, I think third or fourth quarter, not quite sure yet. They're going to be run by Your Choice Therapeutics. So it works by targeting a protein called retinoic acid receptor alpha, which is involved in sperm development. So it's built on research showing that mice bred to not have that receptor produce no sperm and also have no adverse effects outside of sterility. And the researchers went through 100 different synthesized compounds before settling on the one that they used in the study. By targeting the receptor with a reversible drug, we can theoretically make someone sterile temporarily. Right, you get that, right? There's some studies that we've done on mice when we found out that if we remove this receptor just entirely from their genome, they're not able to produce sperm. And there aren't really many other side effects. And obviously, that's pretty great, but we don't want to just make people sterile from birth. It's probably not a good idea. Kind of edging into eugenics there. Just a touch.
Tiny
Just
bit.
dipping your toe in the little eugenicsy pool, aren't you? Not a pool you want to get in. The water's way too cold. Anyway, so we don't want to do that. We want something that's the key thing here is we need it to be reversible, because that's kind of the issue with vasectomies, right? Vasectomies are generally thought of as reversible, and they are, but they're not 100% reversible. The surgery to sort of reverse a vasectomy can go wrong. Can not. You could basically end up permanently sterile from a vasectomy. Yeah, I mean it's not super likely, but it is a possibility that the reversal surgery does not go correctly.
So that means not 100% of the reversal surgeries go correctly.
Yeah.
When you have a vasectomy, if it goes wrong, can they still get some sperm and then artificially inseminate? I'm
not sure. I mean, I don't know much about vasectomies.
Yeah.
Conceivably, all I know about vasectomies from this is that they're generally reversible, but can sometimes go wrong.
Presumably,
Really?
you could have some sperm frozen before your vasectomy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
probably.
And then that's all right.
Yeah, I don't know how long sperm lasts though. I know that they store eggs for 10 years now, which might be changing at some point soon. But they store eggs for 10 years. I don't know how long they store sperm for.
Yeah.
But sperm usually it's much easier to, because people produce sperm for like quite a while. Sperm is
the
viable
whole
for
life, don't
way
they?
longer than eggs.
Yeah.
So, freezing sperm, generally you don't need to freeze sperm for all that long unless, it's someone undergoing something like chemotherapy or some other kind of treatment like that. Yeah. So what they've done here is they've targeted that receptor, which is key in producing sperm. So they gave the mice one dose of YCT529, which is the sort of thing that will inhibit that receptor, daily for 4 weeks. During the treatment, their sperm count dropped, but returned within a month and a half with no apparent side effects. So between 4 to 6 weeks, their sperm production came back.
I have a question. How do you find out the sperm count of a mouse?
Same way you find out the sperm count of a person, I assume.
Well, not the same way. You don't
Roughly
send them
the
into
same way.
send them into a toilet with a magazine.
I didn't look it up. I will assume that they have perfectly humane ways of determining the sperm count of mice.
With a little sleazy mouse magazine.
Well, wasn't there? We did an episode once where there was like some weird thing where someone was like manually getting something out of an animal.
You mean the first episode that we did? That's the pilot, where a woman would masturbate a dolphin.
Yes.
To get him to work.
Yes. Get him to work.
Yeah, so he could learn to speak English.
Get to work.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I feel like I've read another story of like some smaller animal, and then like the researcher having like a little tool or something. And I'm just wondering if that's how you do it for a mouse.
I actually don't
Maybe.
know how you would do it for a mouse. I feel like you just grab a mouse and rub it.
Well, yeah. I've seen sometimes there are jobs that scientists have, which I think, is this what you thought you'd be doing when you did a PhD?
Rub some cheese all over its body. They like cheese.
Mice don't come for cheese.
Oh.
You don't know. Then right.
Oh.
Okay. The standard procedure for sperm collection is to euthanize the male mouse, dissect the... yeah.
Just like for male humans.
But...
Cut off its head,
hold on.
open up the balls.
I feel like, because they must have had the sperm count before and afterwards, and that can only work if you don't kill the mouse.
Well, average mouse. You just kill loads of mice before and then loads of mice after, average it out.
I feel like there is bound to be a way of getting mouse
You'd
sperm.
think so. You could at least just put it to sleep and cut it open and take the balls and then just leave it without balls.
How would they euthanize it?
Yeah, that's all right. Why does it have to be dead?
Okay.
To spare its life without any balls.
Yeah, no, it just seems like they're euthanizing these mice. I'm sorry, it wasn't very important to the overall things. I'm just very confused. Stop! Oh my god, sorry, I keep on finding different places that keep on saying they're killing the mice. I guess they killed the mice.
I'm glad I asked.
Jeez, okay.
We've got to expose this.
What,
when you take your male contraceptive pill, you're doing it on the back of millions of dead mice who've had their sperm stolen.
I don't want to become one of them.
I suppose they did do that to the mice. They killed the mice.
And stole their sperm.
The drug was 99% effective in preventing pregnancy, however, which is really, really good.
That's pretty good.
No apparent adverse side effects. And a quote from the same person who worked on the study, Abdullah Al-Noman. I'm sorry about the first name. I don't know how to pronounce it. When we went to even 100 times higher dose than the effective dose, the compound didn't show any toxicity, which is really good, obviously. Because that means it means that you can... It's really hard. It'd be hard to OD
loads of it if you want to.
Yeah. I mean, ideally, you want something that is difficult to OD on because people are stupid. Yeah. And it's very easy to make mistakes.
Yeah.
I mean, I say people are stupid. Man, I don't know if I've taken like my supplements at the start of the day.
It's just if you forget, yeah.
I take them and I'm like, but did I? I don't know.
Then you have loads of omega-3.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just
especially when it's in your routine.
Exactly.
You don't think about it.
It just immediately leaves your brain.
Yeah.
So... obviously, this is promising, but it doesn't mean that it'll be fine for humans, especially considering that this protein binds to a derivative of vitamin A, which also plays a role in cell development. So there could be unforeseen consequences to targeting it that aren't present in mice. So that non-hormonal one is it's going through human trials soon. So, I mean, by the end of this year, we could be finding... I say by the end of this year, the trials will probably be quite long. In the next couple of years, we might know whether this non-hormonal treatment is safe, and within then maybe the next 5 to 10 years, depending. Well, we've already started the process, so they're moving on to human trials now. So 5 to 10 years, let's say, Jesus, 5 to 10 years, it could be hitting the market.
What if we just classify men, mostly males, having sex with people without contraception as a pandemic, and then we get it through trials real quickly? So that's an epidemic.
You mean a mandemic?
Yeah, man.
There's a real mandemic going on here. We gotta
put all of our resources in, get it through trials real quick. We're fine.
Yeah, so those are the kind of male contraceptives that I've found. The two main ones obviously are hormonal and non-hormonal. Hormonal has just a ton of side effects which we can't have males having. Just can't.
Nope,
just
not allowed.
Not strong enough. Not strong enough to have those side effects.
They won't possibly take it.
Females, on the other hand,
Very strong.
very strong.
Very strong.
Very strong.
They're built for it.
Not strong enough, of course, or reliable enough to run a country, of course. Hormones. Well,
Or even a company.
a company. God, don't be silly. Of course,
Yes.
we can't trust females to do that, but we can trust them to take the pill and
Have
all
horrible
those
side
lovely side
effects.
effects. Yeah. So there's a couple things I want to talk about.
I really
now that
hope the
we've kind
irony
of-
came across there.
I swear to God.
Good God.
That's happened to me once before. I did a video with Evan where I made a joke saying, yes, girl subject, like home economics. I thought it was
Oh my
very obvious.
God.
I thought it was very obvious that I was making a joke. Like, I mean, the way I said it and everything.
Yeah.
And then in the comments, someone was like, I can't believe you made that awful sexist joke. And I was like, are you
The joke was the joke. The joke was that it was a joke.
Yeah.
It's a meta joke.
Yes.
Yeah.
And maybe we could be
Well,
criticised for that.
no.
but-
So hold on. It wasn't so much that the joke was a meta joke. I more said something. It's the way of making a joke where you say something that's just completely outlandish.
Yes. Yeah.
And that in itself is funny.
Yeah.
It just
yeah.
so happens that some people actually believe this completely outlandish thing.
Yes.
And that's kind of an issue.
That's ridiculous.
I'm making fun of those people. To be clear, we're making fun of sexists and
Yes.
people that think that women
are
can't
so
run
silly.
companies.
Yes.
Give them the hormonal contraceptions.
Yeah, I
Hello,
can't.
first-time listeners.
The very fact that there are people who genuinely sit there and believe that women are too hormonal, or females, women are too hormonal to
To do things.
to do things, it's bloody unbelievable. Honestly, unbelievable. I just want to point out before we hop into these little bits of discussion that we've been using female and woman and male and men, not necessarily interchangeably, but we've been switching between the ones we use. There are reasons for that, because obviously male contraceptive is mostly going to affect men. We recognize obviously that not everyone that uses male contraceptive will necessarily be a man, but obviously for simplicity's sake in the conversation, sometimes we have to say man instead of male, and vice versa, female instead of women. Yeah,
Absolutely.
good. Just need to do a little disclaimer. So the next bit I want to talk about, now that we've done most of the science here, is can women trust men to take a pill? So here's a little quote.
No.
Well, here's a little quote. We found that the majority of men would prefer a pill rather than an injection or implant, but testosterone cannot currently be made in this form, so I'm not sure how successful the Australian treatment would be. Some observers think that the injection implant treatment would give women more confidence in male contraception, but Glacier notes, almost all the women surveyed said they would trust a man to take the pill provided he was their partner. So,
You bloody hope so.
You'd hope so.
yeah.
Why are you
but
with them?
I'm surprised that they said that, though.
Right.
I'm genuinely
Yeah, fair
surprised.
enough. 'Cause the stakes are high.
Well,
Yeah,
I just
baby.
find that a lot of heterosexual couples don't trust or really seem to like each other all that much.
That's true.
So I was surprised that most women in the study said that they would trust their male partners to do. I feel like lots of women in that study couldn't trust their male partners to cook themselves a meal.
Most could mean 51%.
Yeah.
With the other 49% being right now.
Nah. I am putting that down his gullet, or I'm not believing he's done it.
The male partner was there in the room. And they were like, yes.
Yes.
And then secretly like,
I trust you.
he's
Yeah.
an idiot.
But that's, I think, a fair... it's not even really a question, to be honest, when it comes to men with women. Generally, would you trust your partner to take the pill? Because, of course you would.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, generally, the issue is that if taking the pill and not taking the pill, the difference between that is something that affects your body. It makes sense why you would trust someone to take care of their own body. But goodness me.
But in a world where you have a strong and easy possibility for male contraceptives, it also creates an ecosystem whereby it's even easier to strengthen paternity law, because you have easy options to avoid with pretty high certainty the situation of having a baby. So you can strengthen the laws whereby men have to pay up if a baby is made, if they have a very easy way of avoiding that.
True. Yeah. I mean, this is the issue. I feel like there are so many unforeseen consequences with this. STIs could potentially see a rise
Yeah.
as people say, "Oh, I don't need to,
Don't need
I
this
to wear a
condom
condom
anymore."
because I'm on the pill." And this is an issue though, because people genuinely, and sometimes you read disclaimers and stuff, and you're like, who is this for? But you forget that people haven't necessarily had the same sex education that we have had. And I had a fairly good sex education, and I assume you both have as well, other than not being able to put a condom on.
Yeah.
So
and not being taught anything about anybody other than straight people.
but
Yeah.
figure it out.
It was more like, and gay people exist. Right, okay, bell's rung, off you go.
Bye-bye.
Trial and error, right? It can't be that. It's just one other hole to put it in. It's
They'll
fine.
figure it out. Basically
Figure
the
it
same
out.
thing.
Yeah, it's fine.
You don't have to worry about pregnancy.
Exactly. Even less to learn about. So, no, usually. So, I'll be back into this. I think that there are lots of potential issues, especially when it comes to having to get the injection or an implant, because, like, let's be realistic. People aren't going to necessarily know why they need the implant. People might be thinking, "Oh, I don't want to do this if it means I need to get an implant done, because it's sort of necessarily not, it could potentially violate their bodily autonomy by being like, oh, I don't want to have something implanted in me, but I need to in order to have this contraception." There are a lot of issues with the hormonal one. The non-hormonal one is marginally better in that it's just one pill that you could take, I believe I would assume sort of once a day. But then again, just do we trust men? Just do we trust men?
I get it's like what you say, where like because the stakes aren't for your own body, it just makes it like, even if it's a few % easier to just forget or not bother, or like, I mean, I know I forget to take things. If I have medication, I always forget, and that is generally in my best interest to take those things. So yeah, I would be wary. I'd be wary to trust men, but it's still a better option than there not being an option at all.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, I'm not saying that we shouldn't do this. I'm just saying that this is not something that you can just roll out without significant public spending on education on this. Because honestly, like the lack of education on the female contraceptive pill is honestly disgusting.
Yeah.
Like really, it's real bad. I mean, most sort of young boys usually will have no idea how that works when it's actually relatively important. And even worse, lots of young females will also have little to no idea what is going on with those pills. And they are very, very important. But to kind of bring it back to the sort of trusting men thing, obviously not all men, obviously, but it's just the way that in our society, generally men approach sex is very different to the way that women tend to approach sex. And it is somewhat worrying to me, considering the fact that men generally are the ones that are writing abortion laws or upholding abortion laws, and men are also the ones who are going to be able to say, "Oh, I'm taking a pill," when they're not. That sort of thing. Like putting so much of that in the hands of the people who it's generally not going to affect all that much is worrying for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a very worrying thing, because like ultimately in a perfect world, if you have a non-hormonal contraceptive that males could take, that's brilliant. Because like, I mean, okay, put it this way, I would not take the hormonal pill. I just wouldn't. I mean, I'm going to be perfectly honest. I would not. You could say that I'm selfish. It is a very selfish decision, but I'm perfectly comfortable with making that selfish decision, because on one hand, it's not really my body, and on the other hand, in terms of a pregnancy, it doesn't affect my body. I'm not going to take. I don't want to take side effects to avoid a pregnancy, essentially, right? I'd rather take other precautions. And the effects are related to basically hormones. So you essentially need to, I mean, keep on top. You have to have blood tests and all of this to keep on top of it. I cannot do that. I would fully not. I would fully not.
Oh yeah, I'm so bad at that stuff.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't.
I forget to take things. I forget to book appointments.
Yeah, no, I would just not book an appointment, and I'd forget to have the testosterone. It would not work for me. On the other hand, the non-hormonal one, yeah, fine.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
You know what I'd do? I would, if I was instigating this, if I was in the NHS, it might be expensive. But it's definitely worth it. I'd create, you know, those pill boxes you get where it's like the dates on it that you can track whether you've taken your pill that day. I would create a box like that connects via Bluetooth to your phone. And if you're somebody who's about to have sex with somebody who claims to have taken this thing, you can just ask them to show them an app on your phone that says you opened one of those boxes in the last 24 hours.
Why are all of your solutions apps? But it's a very good solution.
Well, it's just a solution whereby there'd be no point in faking it, other than if you're genuinely pretending long term to have taken that pill, in which case, you can fill all the boxes. Yeah, I know. It does create this situation where there are really creepy people out there who get off on getting people pregnant.
I was going to say, unless you really want to. Yeah, no. People would.
Yeah, of course. But I just mean for the average person, that's a way of having a situation where the person you're about to have sex with can say, I know it's not very sexy, but can you show me the thing on your app? And then it says, yes, you opened a door on that little medicine box in the last 24 hours. And you have to make the assumption that they opened the door and ate the pill and that the pill was in the door. But
it's that added layer.
Better than not having anything at all.
Although this is the issue, because you've just kind of highlighted this. I would genuinely see the concept, the sort of option being given to people when it comes to casual sex would be condom or contraception. Or a condom or contraceptive pill. So if you've not had the contraceptive pill, then you have to wear a condom. If you have had the contraceptive pill, then I trust you not to wear a condom. That's fine. I feel like there are plenty of blokes out there that would absolutely lie about having had that pill.
Yeah. But would they lie about... So there's two separate categories of people who would lie about that pill. There's people who would lie about that pill because maybe they do and genuinely take it and they forgot to today and they want to have sex, and that's a bad, very poor decision. Then there's people who I know do exist who genuinely get off on the idea of getting somebody pregnant and that person doesn't know.
It's more the fact
that's another level of messed up.
The third option is, I think, probably the more populous one, which is people that just prefer sex without condoms and don't really care about other people.
Stop it!
Really selfish people.
What's wrong with you?
But
just take the pill. If you prefer sex without condoms, just take that pill. What's the problem?
Yeah, but then
what's wrong with you?
Think about the people that were up in arms about a life-protecting vaccine because it was going in their body. Do you think you're going to convince these people to take a pill every day?
Well, just put a condom on then.
No, I don't feel that.
Just don't have sex. You don't get sex.
No,
be a person.
I want to have sex.
Luke, sorry.
Be a person. Stop it.
Sorry.
Stop it.
You can't solve all of humanity's ills
What's
by just
wrong with you?
telling
You can't make
irrational
me
people
care
to be
about
rational.
people.
You don't... Just stop it.
Yeah, exactly. So, next part. I want to talk about side effects for men versus women. We've already spoken about this a little bit, but let's talk about side effects for men versus women.
Go on.
Because, put it this way, generally, we don't care about women. I'll just put that out there. Not us in this room. We as a society don't care about women.
He said it.
Yeah, I said it. Look, my point is that it's really frustrating when you start digging into all of this stuff, and they're talking about, here are all the side effects for men, weight gain, XYZ.
Oh, look, all of the side effects that women currently put up with.
And I genuinely went on the Planned Parenthood website, and I'm just like, these are the same picture.
And is it, do you know if it's similar rates of those things? Because that would be really
don't
messed
know
up.
the rates, but one would assume that they are somewhat similar. I mean, look, think about this. Of all the people on female contraception that you know,
yeah,
how many of them have had no negative side effects whatsoever?
I don't. Probably not many of them.
Off the top of my head, I don't know a single one.
Yeah, zero that I know of.
Every single person that I know that has been on female contraceptive has had some issue with some version of it.
Yeah.
There are a number of different ones, obviously. But, people don't. Generally, people don't care all that much. And it's actually frustrating because it becomes one of these things of what issues are actual issues and what issues aren't, right? Because, I mean... This is okay. We are all not women generally, right? We agree with that. Are we?
Most of the time.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Cool. And at the very least, we don't deal with the same problems that AFAB people deal with. People assigned female at birth. Females generally deal with, and necessarily we're going to speak about it from our perspective. We've already spoken about this stuff in other episodes with Bliss, the lovely Bliss, who joined us for the eugenics and birth control episode. If you want to hear more about that, head over to that episode. But I think potentially our perspective on this would be interesting and enlightening for some people. Because I'll say this, it really bloody sucks not ever knowing what's going on with females or women in general, right? Yeah. In school, didn't really get taught about periods.
No.
Getting older. I found out about polycystic ovary syndrome. As someone that studies like biology-based science often, I found out about that on Twitter from people that I know that have it.
Really?
All of these things, like all of these sort of generally female disorders or syndromes and whatnot, I learned about from the internet, from people tweeting about it and saying, hey, my doctor hasn't listened to me about this problem, or there's not enough research on this specific syndrome or anything like that. It just seems that so often women's health issues are just sidelined or belittled or ignored. And it comes to a point, and like obviously it's way worse for the people that are actually dealing with that experience. But on the end of someone who doesn't have that experience and genuinely has literally no way to know about it other than people speaking up about it, it's really bloody frustrating to find out that, oh, so this whole time I've just been completely unaware and kind of ignoring the problems of this entire massive group of people because I wasn't taught about them. That's a proper failure of our education system. Like, so many people make fun of men that are weirded out by periods, but let's take a step back, right? Let's stop being angry at men for 5 minutes, just for 5 minutes, and think about the progression of men in general, right? You start off as a boy usually, and just in school, you'll either get taught nothing about sex or get taught just about maybe how to put a condom on or something, right? And you generally will not be taught about periods or any of that other stuff that you don't need to know about. I mean, I've genuinely heard stories of people that they took all the boys and put them in one room, and they took all the girls and put them in another room. Is that your story?
Yeah.
Oh, it was your story.
My school, yeah.
Yeah, go for
Happened
it.
to mine as well.
Yeah, I mean, year 5 and 6, we have sex education, and they just take all the girls away into a different room.
Yep.
And they teach them about periods and ovaries and all that stuff. I think we played games or something.
We learned about erections for like 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's much shorter. The girls had a lot more education than we did in primary school. And then they come back in, and all these girls are enlightened about something that we don't have a clue about. And then we go back to normal school. And then I went to a boys' school where I wasn't taught anything. I was probably taught little bits in biology, but weird.
Yeah, you find out about periods from South Park and your friends, right? Like,
yes.
And this is something that I think of relatively often, about how people often talk about sort of men as being just the worst in lots of instances. And to be fair, men can be the worst in lots of instances. That's pretty undeniable. But I see a lot of men as victims of a system that is itself also propagated by many, many men. Like, boys don't choose to not be taught about periods. And yes, as a grown man, you should
go learn.
You should learn and be open to this stuff. But I think that people sometimes forget about how hard it is to know about something or take something seriously when for your entire life you've been taught the opposite.
Yeah, especially when you've formed your understanding of the world based on what you've been taught and the things you've experienced. And so you think you're living in a world that you're not living in.
Yeah.
You think you're living in a world where those things don't happen. So no wonder that you're then sometimes like ignorant about certain things.
Yeah.
And then obviously as you become an adult, it becomes your responsibility to go and learn. But it is weird that you spend your first sort of 18 years of life living in a sort of, if you're a man and you're not taught about a certain experience of half the population, a fantasy world where those things just don't exist.
At the very least, if you're going to be open as an adult to learn about things, you almost necessarily need, like, being told just to Google it. I know people shouldn't be there to sort of educate you. It's not their job to do that. But on the other hand, and Rowan Ellis has done a really great video on this, which we'll have in the cards on YouTube and linked below. Rowan Ellis has done a fantastic video on this, wherein you can tell people to educate themselves and I'll go learn this for yourself. But while that is the easiest thing for you to do, and you don't have to, you shouldn't be obligated to teach people, point them in the right direction at least. Link them to something from Planned Parenthood or something, or the NHS, something along those lines. Because honestly, it can be daunting, right? Like, what do you Google?
Well, yeah, a lot of people probably won't go and educate themselves at all to begin with. And then they could be exposed to any information.
Yeah. And to be fair, they should educate themselves. Absolutely. Yeah. But we're living in a world of shoulds, then they shouldn't be in the position that they're in the first place.
Yeah.
Like,
But we're also not raised to educate ourselves.
No.
Yes.
We're not raised in like a world where you can go and explore things. You were raised in a way of like someone tells you things and you remember it.
And you sit down and learn.
And also, if you Google something, if you Google periods, it's actually pretty good, probably, right? You've got periods on the NHS, and then Planned Parenthood, Kids Health, all of that sort of stuff. But to actually find out about more you've really got to, like, you've got PMS here on the NHS place for periods, but not really that much more, But
does that page start from first principles of somebody who might not know the definitions of all these words that they're reading?
The NHS is actually a fantastic resource for. I mean, I use it every single time I do an episode that's remotely health related, and I choose the NHS website over all of the American ones, even the CDC, because the NHS does a fantastic job of breaking it down for anyone to read. Genuinely, for anyone of any knowledge level to read. And it's very useful for me to read that and be like, oh yes, this is something I might have to explain. Like, it starts off saying a period is the part of the menstrual cycle when a woman bleeds from her vagina for a few days. So, I mean, you need to know what the menstrual cycle is, but I think they kind of explain it throughout that.
You didn't know what a vagina was. I was confused about what a vagina was for quite a long time.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know there was a hole. I thought it was just a line.
But this is what bothers me when people make fun
I learned about sex from the dictionary.
People make fun of men for not knowing where the clitoris is.
Yeah.
When would they have?
You're not taught.
Sorry. What do you expect? What do you expect these guys to have done? Like, I know they should.
Yeah,
they
absolutely.
They have been failed by their education system, and making fun of them for that is not going to help. Making fun of them for having had a poor education is not necessarily going to help. And like, yes, I get it can be fun, all of that stuff. And I'm not saying hold men's hands because we need it. Like, I'm not in that position of a man that is unaware of being unaware.
Yes.
I was in that position, I guess, as a teenager.
Yeah.
And looking back, I'm like, man, I'm really glad that people were there to guide me in the right direction. I'm going to be honest. Right now, I still don't understand menopause. Not really much. I don't know. I don't even... Like, this is like, I'm going to expose myself here. I've been meaning to read into it. I generally know about menopause. Don't know what age it happens. Can't even tell you.
Like mid-50s, I think?
Mid-50s.
50s-ish. Yeah.
50s,
Roughly around
mid-50s, I would reckon.
Yeah.
But it will happen to people at different times.
Exactly. But I don't know the range, which is really... and that is an uncomfortable thing for me to admit, and an uncomfortable position for me to be in, because I don't like not knowing stuff like that. But menopause is just a blind spot for me. I generally can gesture to the basic information of it, and that is it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is worrying because it's something that affects
half the people if they live long enough.
Like 50% of people that I know, probably, and I just don't know all that much about it.
Don't worry, you got like 20 years to educate yourself.
Yeah, sometime, it's fine. Oh, late 40s to mid 50s apparently. Average age of menopause in the UK
Wow.
is 51.
So we were guessing the top end of the range.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just really, it's somewhat frustrating to, and I understand it, right? I can understand why people act this way, and I'm not saying that they're bad for acting this way. It is somewhat frustrating to see that there's this problem of men being undereducated in certain areas, and then blame the men that are undereducated for it. Like, I get it. It gets fun to make fun of them for not knowing where the clitoris is. I get that them not being attentive to their partner or their needs is a problem that they need to solve themselves.
Yeah.
But dude, man, I wasn't taught about that.
I remember being towards the end of school and discovering the words like labia and vulva and clitoris and all those words. I was like, I thought it was one thing.
Yeah, I found
just
that
the vagina.
A few years ago, the vulva, vagina, labia, clitoris, all of those are, different things.
To be fair, I knew a girl in her 20s who thought there were 2 holes and that was it.
Yeah, I don't know. But then, it's not like even being up close and personal. In those instances, you have enough time to really be, sort of looking around and be like, oh, okay, this is what this is. That's what that is. If you're educated, it's basically just what you're taught in school, and then the glimpses you get when you're having sex. Realistically, you're not doing much inspection there. And yeah, genuinely, men need to, I'm not saying, hold men's hands and do all the work for them. A little bit of compassion and empathy and would go a long, long way, I think.
Crappy education.
Even for, because I feel like so many
to teachers, you guys are great.
Yeah, no, so many of the problems...
Teach your boys about the clit.
But genuinely, some of the problems that you have when it comes to men and boys, I think stems from education. And I don't think that it's an inherent flaw of men that they're like that. I think it's potentially this education system that we've set up and propped up, which disincentivizes us from, and not just the education system, the entire healthcare system, all of this sort of stuff, where it disincentivizes us from taking women seriously, or even paying attention to female issues in general, and incentivizes generally men knowing jack shit about women because they don't need to. Like, you just don't need to. It's so bloody frustrating. And obviously that's one thing, that's the message out to people who have men in their lives or know men like this. And the message to men who probably, let's be realistic, are not listening to this podcast. But if you are one of those men, or you are a man yourself and you're thinking, what can I do? Jesus Christ, just think and educate yourselves and others. Okay, use the links in the description. Just go Planned Parenthood, NHS. And especially if you're a man, like seriously, like if you're a man and you're slacking on this sort of stuff, you are a problem. You are worse than the men who don't know anything, because you know better and you're doing nothing about it. And I say this to my male friends.
You know better.
I genuinely say this. I say this to my male friends, my cishet guy friends who are white and who generally don't have to worry about a lot of the things that I and many of my other friends have to worry about. I tell them, if you are hanging out with these friends of yours and they're saying X, Y, Z, and you're not saying anything about it, you're about as bad as they are. You know better, and you are not saying anything about it because you don't want to mess with... I don't care. They shouldn't be your friends if you can't say anything about it. And if you're going to stick with them because they're your friends, despite the fact that they say and do all this stuff that you're not really willing to bring up, you're a problem too.
I had a fun time the other day with this massive Tory dude at my tennis club who kept on making jokes about the fact that a pole dancing club had opened up in the town centre, and he was like,
what a boring life.
Yeah, and he was like just thinking, oh, have you seen that? Oh, it's disgusting. And I literally turned to him and went, dude, it's just a form of exercise. You're here playing tennis. You're not playing in Wimbledon. Like, shut up.
Yeah, no,
and it went really well, actually. He was like...
Well, they don't expect... The thing is that most people say stuff, they don't expect talkback.
Yeah.
They expect it just to fly. And that's why, as a man, you have a lot of power. Because men listen to other men.
Yes.
I've seen it. I've seen it happen.
Ooh.
Whoa, I know. Ooh. But genuinely, lots of these people... Because usually people are uneducated and ignorant and they can't defend their positions on it. Because they don't have positions. They just have whatever they've just easily slotted themselves into and absorbed. So by actually knowing the stuff, you can educate other people. And if they try to argue with you, you can win that argument very easily. So I guess my message to all of the men out there is to have high standards for yourself and every other man you know, and make sure that you make the people that you know stick to those standards. And for everyone else that isn't a man, I'm sorry, but also maybe just maybe cut some guys a little bit of slack sometimes, you know. Also, I want to point out that this doesn't apply to people that are actively doing bad things. If people are just uninformed and ignorant, then that's probably someone that you should have some compassion with.
I also want to clarify that this is like a pole dancing exercise place, not a pole dancing club. Not that there was anything wrong with a pole dancing club, but it was specifically an exercise studio.
And if anything, that bloke that's complaining about the pole dancing club, he'd probably be one of the first people in there. Usually they are.
If it was a pole dancing club.
Can you believe the strip club opened and it's £40 for entry and none of the dancers will even touch you when you go in?
And the bathrooms are really dirty.
God, this shouldn't be in our town.
And they're not attracted to me.
I feel like you're speaking from experience here. No, it's all hypothetical. I have that hypothetical.
I can tell by looking at the front door.
So I think we've come to a pretty natural close on our male contraceptives. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, sure we have.
Okay.
I've said we have, and therefore we have.
And therefore
Corey has spoken.
And now it's time for a quick fire quiz.
Dun 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 dun. No baby edition.
Gosh darn right. So the quick fire quiz is the same as usual, same rules as always. I'll ask one question. That's one question between the two of you. The first person to buzz into the correct answer wins. What do they win, Jamp?
No baby.
That's right. They win no baby.
No baby.
Luke, what's your buzzer?
Ooh. It was a spermless orgasm.
I see. Jamp, what's your buzzer?
What's that?
It's also a spermless orgasm.
Jamp sounds a little bit more accurate to me. The question is, on top of progestin, what was the other part of the hormonal male contraceptive? Jamp.
testosterone.
Ding, ding, ding. You
Congratulations.
are correct. Well done. You win no baby.
No baby.
No baby is yours.
You have baby. You
You've
win
only
baby.
got 20, so it's fine.
I've got enough.
Before we go, we'd like to thank all of our patrons with a very special thank you to executive producers Rosa Rodriguez and Danito. And thank you for watching. You can find the full references for this episode in the description. Subscribe for new episodes every Sunday. And why not leave us a nice wee comment? You can support the pod at patreon.com/SciGuys, or you can find and contact us at SciGuysPod on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and here on YouTube, and at SciGuys on TikTok too. Or you can send us an email at SciGuysPod@gmail.com.
That's SciGuysPod@gmail.com.
SciGuysPod.
Gmail.com. You can follow me at NotCore everywhere.
You can follow me at Dampkin everywhere.
You can follow me at Luke Cutforth everywhere.
And goodbye. Wrap it before you tap it.